Good morning, everybody. Josh Ogdog Ogden here with Ogdog Fishing. This morning I want to talk to you guys about a company called MESU Fishing. These guys just make some really innovative, high quality stuff. I love throwing a biffle bug, and they make a product called the wobble head, which is the weighted hook system. Football head on the front, trocar hook on the back, and I mean, it's nothing's even close as far as quality goes. They make a shaky head rig called the Spring Chicken. Again, very innovative product. It's dramatically increased my hookup ratio on shaky head fishing. They kind of have a stout version. It's like a shaky head rig, but I honestly fish it more like a football jig or something, called the Cocky Rooster. Then they've got really cool jointed jig, which they call their Raptor jig. It comes in a football head and also a swim jig head. They make some amazing spoons, really cool buzz bait, and they've got lots of other stuff. I'm going to try and go through and highlight a few of the products I just mentioned and talk about how I use them, why I use them, why I think they're better than what you can buy off the shelf from a lot of the big companies. And encourage you guys to definitely get you some MESU fishing in your boat. You're going to stick more fish, and chances are you're probably going to catch bigger fish. So we'll highlight a bunch of this stuff. Generally speaking, I'll say a few things about MESU Fishing. All of their stuff uses trocar hooks. They actually have licensing rights to use the UV coating that goes into all of the UV baits. So all of the weights on their hooks have all been UV coated, and the interesting thing about that is that even after the powder coat is worn off and banged off and all that, what we found is that if you put that under a UV light, that lead itself is still glowing. So the UV part of it actually absorbs into the lead. And quite frankly, I personally catch just as many fish when there's no powder coat on it as I do when there is. They offer it in a variety of colors. I only fish with black and green pumpkin. And obviously a variety of sizes. So these guys, one of them is like an engineer in the aircraft industry, and the two owners are both very serious fishermen. Everything that they design and innovate is from probably years of frustration and use of inferior products, and they're bringing that aircraft engineering mentality because they want products that aren't going to bend, they're not going to break. I mean, they're going to perform when you've got that double-digit bass on the end of your line. And I personally believe very strongly that these baits will help you stick more fish and catch some bigger fish, particularly when it comes to throwing their Raptor jigs. It's just something crazy about that jig, but it produces a big bite. Biggest fish I've ever caught on Grand came on it a couple years ago. So we're going to go into some product details next, and this is going to be kind of a long video, but I really encourage you guys to watch it. Stick with me, because I'm going to give you some tips, some tricks I use that kind of trick the baits out, or might get me a bite in a tough situation. But we'll kind of go into detail on these products. Again, MESU Fishing, check them out. Thanks, guys. All right, guys, we'll start going through the MESU products and just talk a little bit about the details of them, what makes them pretty freaking special. So first up, this is MESU's buzz bait, and what makes this cool, you can see, is that swings. So what they did was they put a big split ring that makes the connection. It's got a trocar hook on it, and they also spent their time on the blade. This blade has a really unique sound and action in the water. There's basically two buzz baits I throw. This is one, and then for a little bit different action and sound, I throw a Cabotron. But that's it. I've caught a lot of big fish on this. A lot of tournaments have been won on Grand Lake on this bait. They've got some cool looking skirts, so definitely get you a couple of the MESU buzz baits, and I think you're really gonna like throwing them and have fun catching the fish that you get on these too. So next up, like I said, is Biffle bug is one of my go-to baits, and it's kind of a comfort bait for me. I think, you know, almost any time of year you can get bit on it, and there's so many different ways to fish it. This is what they call their wobble head, football head, jointed, trocar hook. Like I said, they UV coat all of this, green pumpkin, black. Those are the only two colors I throw. For some of you beginners who haven't really thrown creature baits on a jointed head hook like this, I'll show you real quick. Really simple to rig up. You take your creature bait, you're going to kind of Texas rig it, so you're going to come through a 1/4 inch or so. You're going to push that bait through, and then here's one thing that I do, particularly this is a hollow body, the Biffle bug's a hollow body, but I like to come all the way through the bait, have the hook come back up through the top, like so, and then what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to do what's called a skin hook, and I'm just going to put that hook inside the top there. My hook up ratio is amazing. I can drag this stuff through the cover, and you know, this rig catches a lot of fish all over the country. So if you haven't tried it yet, get you some wobble heads and some creature baits, try it. I'm going to show you guys a little trick that I do. If I feel like I'm in a place that's getting a lot of pressure, or I feel like a lot of people are throwing you know, a Biffle bug or a creature bait on a wobble head, I go get some of these tube rattles, and I will actually shove it down in the hollow part before I hook my bait. What you end up with, if you listen, see, now that bait rattles. It's just something a little bit different, and I would highly suggest getting some of these and keeping them in your boat. So whether you're fishing one of these, or you're fishing a hollow body, even a tube, I mean, it's just that noise sometimes can make a huge difference, and I've seen it many times, that those fish want a noisy bait. Next up, I talked about they've got a deal called a Raptor jig, and I said it comes in a football head. So this is the football head version of the Raptor jig. Again, this is also jointed, free swinging, and they've got a swim jig head version. These guys make some killer color combinations on their skirts as well. This is kind of a bluegill pattern, and obviously tried and true black and blue. So what I do on this rig, it's basically kind of the same setup as the wobble head, except that it's also got a skirt on it. I usually like to tip these with a Biffle bug or a Reaction Innovations beaver, and same deal. You just hook it about 3/4 inch through. You're going to Texas rig it, same deal. I come back through all the way. Then I'm going to skin hook this thing. And here's another thing. This is why I picked out this bug to show you guys. So I've got a black and blue jig here, but then my trailer is actually blue and green pumpkin. And I think what I found is, so many people just try and match their trailer exactly to their skirt. And a lot of times that works, but the fish have seen that so often that if you actually give them some difference, I've found that I'm getting pretty aggressive bites when I'm changing up my trailers a little bit. So make sure that you experiment. But you can see what a nice big profile this makes. And man, when this thing moves through the water, it displaces a lot of water. You know, the rubber just provides a crazy level of action. And like I said, the biggest fish I've ever caught at Grand came off this pre-fishing a couple years ago, which broke my heart. But she was every bit of 7.5, close to 8-pound fish. It's really easy to fish, and what I'll do, I'll take, Grand is a real rocky lake, but if you can get in the backs of some of these pockets, you've got a lot of laydowns that have fallen down over the years, and when they're right there at pre-spawn, sometimes you can get on a pattern where they're relating to that, but you're still wanting to knock this thing off rock. So you really get best of all worlds, because you've got your football head, and it'll bounce and bump off the rocks, but the way that this is rigged, being weedless, I can pull that through that heavy cover and actually get bit if they're sitting inside that. So absolutely everybody out there needs to have a couple of these in the football head and a couple of the swim jigs in your boat. The swim jig version of the Raptor jig is extremely popular in Florida. Guys are throwing those year-round, all around the grass and stuff. You can tip it with a swim bait. You can tip it with a million things. With this particular rig in that bluegill color, I like to go with a speed craw in a blue. Again, now they've come out with the mega size speed craw, which is really nice because it's a little bit longer bait. But on these short speed craws, you're going to end up, I actually don't skin hook this. I just go right into the very tail end of it. Like so. But what you end up with, I mean, tell me that's not bluegill. Love throwing this around docks, love throwing it post-spawn around grass areas, or, you know, the bluegill will always spawn after the bass. So you can kind of get in that magic period where the big females have kind of gone through their rest period and move back up to feed. And if the bluegill spawn's happening, then the bluegills are easy meals. If you're throwing around any kind of cover or grass, this is killer, man. The cool thing too is, honestly, you can throw this like a jig. You can throw it around cover, let it fall. The fact that it's jointed, the fact that these have trocar hooks, I just believe it gives you a better opportunity to stick any fish that hits. So again, guys, these are the Raptor jigs from MESU Baits. I'm going to show you a little trick too. So I keep several of these in my boat. You can buy them from, you know, lure making companies. These are basically bladed jig blades. I go ahead and pre-make them up, and if I'm looking for a little bit something different, I can take that with my split ring pliers, which make sure you keep in your boat, and I can attach that right to my Raptor jig, and now I've created a killer vibrating jig, and it's easy off and on. So just a little tip and hint, some of the MESU Pro staff is going to be mad that I shared that. Talk to you guys about their shaky head rig called the Spring Chicken, and this is what it looks like right here. So you're going to see that the bait keeper is free swinging, and I honestly believe that's a huge reason why my hookup ratio is significantly improved since shaky head fishing with the Spring Chicken. I used to hate shaky head fishing. Now I'm going to tell you guys, to me, shaky head fishing is not necessarily a finesse technique. I very rarely actually throw it on a spinning rod and reel. Where we're at in this part of the country, zebra mussels have kind of started to take over. So I'm actually throwing it most times on 14-pound fluorocarbon with a medium heavy action rod. And one of the keys I've figured out to shaky head fishing is really letting the fish load up and kind of hook themselves. And that's where this rig really shines. The fact that it does swivel and that it's got the trocar hook, in my mind, just makes it that much easier for those fish to load up. So one of the really cool things about the MESU Spring Chicken rig, this is removable, quickly removable. So if you look here, it's got a little loop, and then their bait keeper has like a little hook on it. And you can just put them together like that. So when I want to rig up a worm, I want to stay as far away from that trocar hook as I can. So what I've got here is a New Wave trick worm by Bass Kwon Do. Make sure you guys check out Bass Kwon Do stuff. It's pretty dang cool. But then I can quickly just screw my worm onto this. Pop it onto my bait. Then what I like to do is go ahead and do a couple more turns and cover that a little bit more. Make sure that everything's nice and straight. On a shaky head, you probably don't want to skin hook it. You just want to go ahead and come in like a Texas rig. Boom, you're done. They offer this in a football head and also a round head. I typically will throw a football head because most of the lakes we're fishing around here are real rocky. But the fact that when that fish hits that, there's just so much play, and I very, very, very rarely actually lose my worm too, which is kind of nice because I'm a cheapskate and I'll typically end up biting off some of the front and fishing with the same worm. But if you shaky head fish at all, you need to get some of these in your boat. Check them out. If you were frustrated like I was shaky head fishing, get you a couple of these, go out, throw it. You're gonna really enjoy the number of fish you catch, and particularly when those tournaments get kind of tough. Make sure you got a shaky head on deck. Last product I'll talk about is the Cocky Rooster, which is kind of a hybrid shaky head. It's a bigger hook, heavier weight. Again, it has the same bait keeper setup, and what we have found on some of these lakes that are infested with zebra mussels, for whatever reason, I'm sure there's a physics reason behind this, when you're dragging this through, you just don't get the same line abrasion that you would on most other rigs. I don't need to know the explanation for that to know that it's true, because I've seen it. And so this is definitely something I keep in my boat, and it's just a little bit different presentation. So I've got a Christie critter here, you know, biffle bug, beavers, any kind of creature bait, even a bigger worm. Everything works on this. Again, they've got the nice removable bait keeper. We're just going to go into our bait like so. Get that on there. Give it a couple more twists, and then you can either push your hook through and skin hook, Like if you've got a hollow bait, or in this case, what I'm going to do is this regular Texas rig. But that's what you got. And man, you can pull this thing through the water. And I think what's cool is you see the hook itself has got a little angle bend in it. And I think when you're kind of dragging that and then it sets, if you look, if that's setting down, now all these appendages are actually aimed up off the bottom. This is what a crawdad looks like when it gets in a defensive position. The way that this rig lines up, it puts your bait in that position every time you stop it. Comes in a variety of colors. I actually think they do a round head on this too. You might double check on the website. But these are MESU baits. I don't have any of the spoons out, and they make some other stuff too. We'll talk about some other point, but definitely wanted to give you guys a good variety, talk about why I use them, why they're superior products, and give you a few tips. So hopefully you've enjoyed the video, and appreciate you guys watching. Make sure and check out MESU Fishing. Check out ogdogfishing.com. We're going to do a lot more of these this year and have some fun. Thanks guys for watching.